This is a clouds weather alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, breaking in because we have a Helene tornado warning here for parts of the area. I know we'll be in our long form cover to the storm later on as the things get much worse, but this is a pretty strong area of rotation, and it's our policy to be on for all tornado warned storms here to move to the 62 counties, providing coverage of that. And I mean, in this case, we're providing a lot of coverage about the storm itself here, the core of that's going to move in later on. But right now, this is pretty strong rotation here west of Caribou. We need to get folks in shelter, the ones that are still there, to be quite honest, in Franklin County, because a lot of folks would have evacuated. You see some pretty tight circulation. It really spun up pretty quick here in terms of intensification. I've been switching radars here again because we've had just a slew of things go on, but you'll be able to kind of see we had some of that rotation there, but then it tightened up there about 4:45 or so, prompting the tornado warning. That looks pretty tight right now east of Creels here. So we need to get folks into that tornado safe spot. Again, the few that are still out there, and there may be a small subtle sign of a debris signature. So maybe hidden something in this pretty rural area here. I mean, you see how rural it is. We were just a couple weeks ago tracking Francine tornado warnings, and we were talking about just how rural these areas are, but again, this is a Hurricane Helene tornado warning here until about 5:15 Eastern in the Gulf County portion. 4:15 Central is what we'd be tracking over, toward that zone. Though it looks like the way they have this, that it may not be really, as we look here, enough in the Ward Gulf County to really, get into that central time zone. But again, just continuing to watch things here. Technically, a little Gulf listed, but again, Franklin County is where the focal point is here. That's our area. Gulf is not technically in our area, but again, watching this very carefully here. A very dangerous situation with the actual hurricane coming in. It's moving very quickly here. And we got a new 5 o'clock update, which I'm going to see here in just a moment. And then we're getting some things ready for long form coverage, and I'm trying to make some adjustments to some forecasting stuff before it's too late here, and we're really in the thick of things with our coverage. I mean, we've been on a lot leading up to it, but this is going to be a really big deal here tonight. Charge your devices up if you're not evacuating. You're not in that evacuation area where you have to get out because the surges are so high or the winds are going to be so strong, and you're in a mobile home or something like that, because a lot of folks are going to lose power, and a lot of folks are going to lose power for a while, as this storm is one that's going to go down in the record books, no doubt, in some different ways. Going to be retired, I'm sure. It's just going to be something we'll never forget here as we're looking toward our area. A historic scenario here, historic situation, a major hurricane that got upgraded here. Did Helene earlier about 2:30 or so, and the winds are going up even a little bit more here as we're looking at things. The forward speed's going up. That barometric pressure is going down here with Helene, so a really nasty scenario here. We're expecting devastating to catastrophic local threats here as we look ahead in toward the timeline. Again, an extreme situation here with Helene, and we have this, tornado warning we're looking at. But now here's going to be your 5 o'clock update from the Hurricane Center in Miami. Max sustained winds 125 miles an hour. The present movement north-northeast at 23 miles an hour, and that minimum central pressure 951 millibars. And we're talking about a devastating to catastrophic local threat ahead for some. So this is some really serious stuff, folks. As serious as it ever gets here around here, as serious as it's ever been, in the parts of our viewing circle. So really serious. You gotta be taking heed here of exactly what's going on. So again, that's your 5 o'clock update with the hurricane. It's picking up forward speed, and it's gonna be in here in the next several hours. But the core of that, it's not here yet. You still have just a sliver of time to evacuate here toward those coastal areas of our viewing circle, but time's running out. You have tornado warnings, and the storm is coming in. As we look here on the Tallahassee radar, you can see it now off of that one. I also see some rotation here. I wanted to see if, oh boy, that's probably gonna get another tornado warning as we look towards St. George Island, give or take, depending on the exact movement. It could slip just under there. It's possible. And actually, that looks like as I put that in motion. That's the thing about tropical systems. You kind of can't depend on these tracks sometimes, like we do in other severe weather situations, because when you put it in motion, it looks like it might pass just south as a water spout. We need to switch over real quick. I know we have some really strong winds now around Tampa, picking up a lot of power outages, starting to, become a story here on this eastern trend. We have tornado warnings down to like Sarasota County. Had one in Volusia County a moment ago. And you can see this tornado warning in Sarasota County until about 5:15, a possible tornado 8 miles northwest of Northport. And then you just see these winds around St. Petersburg, 59 miles an hour, 55 there around Clearwater. And we have some storm surge, issues here as we look ahead. I mean, I'll go ahead and show you here the angle of some of this. I need to clean this up a bit because we have just all sorts of different things plotted on our other source. Let me go ahead and do that here. There's just all sorts of things happening with this very dangerous hurricane. This historic situation that we're anticipating here over the next several hours or so. It's just very bad news, obviously, and I hate, to have to keep reiterating that, but we just need folks to make sure to get out. It's about protecting your life. Property is secondary to your life at this point. And I mean, we do have the wind direction here to some degree, favorable for some of that storm surge further to the south here. And it's, I'm sure piling up there very quickly. You see down here around Cape Coral and the like, but and then around Tampa, St. Pete, got to watch when the direction kind of shifts a little bit more as the storm kind of almost passes by, but then the direction not necessarily really, favorable at all right now on Cedar Key and Horseshoe Beach, but that's going to completely change here. Right now, we're getting some of that, you would think, towards St. George Island and the like, but we'll see exactly where it hits because there's a chance they may get a little luckier over there, but you can't take that chance if that, kind of resonates with you guys. So again, a really serious situation. Let me go ahead and pull up here the wind radius forecast, which is concerning. I was trying to do some updates here, because of this is, shown maybe now the hurricane gust potential getting even further over. I mean, this is in Georgia, and it's now east there of Waycross, so that hurricane warning area may have to be expanded here as we're looking, further off toward the east in Georgia and also in Florida here as we track it. I mean, they may just go with what they have because technically hurricane gust may not really meet the criteria, but that's an escalated threat here, and you extrapolate that out. It's just kind of the points in time because that's in Georgia at 2 a.m. You extrapolate things out, and you have a situation here where that gets, right through, even Bradford, Union, Alachua counties now with gusts to 75 all the way through the county and even maybe into Clay and Duval counties, western Duval County now, which could cause a lot of power outages. I mean, not to, the extent with the damage as we're going to see to the west, but still substantial. This may, and I got, you're not going to have a whole bunch of rain coming. I know it's really tricky, but around Stark, that's what we're expecting, not a whole bunch of rain, but the wind could be some of the worst we've had since Irma around here for a short period of time. So it's a strange situation. I mean, all hurricanes are different. As we're getting a report of, I know up in Georgia here earlier, a tornado that came through. It did cause some damage and shifted a double-wide trailer off its foundation, and multiple trees had, were down, and there was confirmed damage there on George Dean Road around 2:30 this afternoon around the Broxton community. So that one did verify. We'll see if this one verified here toward Franklin County. Again, as we watch a Cat 3 hurricane to the south. This is some tight rotation right now in Franklin County, northeast of Creoles. We got to be careful, too, because we had a lot of sunshine in here. So these areas of rotation that we're watching, there's, energy maybe for them to possibly try to be problematic for us. I mean, that's a lot of energy. As I'm looking at my system here, 1,500, 2,000 almost joules per kilogram of energy, that's a lot. And with that, with that shear and being all discrete like this, I mean, you got to be really careful with this activity coming on in there, Putnam County right now and the like. We could start getting that tornado threat to really pick up on us here as we look ahead. But you see a Cat 2 hurricane expected all the way into South Georgia there. You know, that's really bad news. I mean, that's right around Adele and Tipton there. You can kind of see what we're talking about with that scope of the sustained hurricane winds in that circle there. That's bad news. That's going to cause, you know, we had the trailers, mobile homes there hit in 2017. Well, you know, these winds are going to be a little lower than that, but, you know, not as much as you would think compared to how strong of a tornado that was that hit there in 2017. So this is really serious stuff, folks. And, you know, mobile homes may not be safe, especially this is at night. So you got to treat this like a tornadic situation, even all the way up through in here. I mean, this is awful. You know, one thing I see here is, you know, our areas like over southwest Georgia, further over, like, you know, maybe around Fort Gaines and Blakely. You guys might be in a little bit better shape here at this point. Still bad, you know, but maybe not as bad over that way. But we shall see as we look here, as we track this. You know, it's a situation that adjusts here on the fly, and we have to kind of go with it. So again, that's the forecast at 2 a.m. I know I wish they had these points in between. This is the last forecast, you know, before it hits here, but that's just the way it works with them, the way they issue these. So I mean, this is within radar range, so we'll try to simulate things with HRRR here. And let me go ahead and go on over. Let's go to 6 o'clock here. HRRR should work better now that it's in radar range, though. It's not simulating exactly like it is. This is the 7 o'clock projection, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight here. As we look at things, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Definitely showing more storms on the back side now this than we were thinking earlier on. That's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And they've been pretty much dry on the back side here. You know, it's the first time really seeing that come into play there. We may actually still have some warnings here later in the night tonight. So, you know, really late in the night, even across North Florida now. So, not the worst of the conditions, but still an isolated severe threat. So, interesting to keep that in mind here. Just you gotta keep all the different, you know, variables here in mind in a situation like this. I know definitely some really nasty conditions around Pinellas County and the like there. We had a viewer comment about that, you know, in St. Petersburg, and those winds, you know, gusting about hurricane force as we kind of look at things. And yeah, they're right on the edge of that, you know, red area, and that red area is now going to get, you know, further over there with the hurricane gust forecast. So that makes, you know, a lot of sense here, and that could be a real cause for concern. So make sure, even on Stark, you're charging up your devices here, because there has been a slight adjustment to the east here, and that slight adjustment makes enough difference where, you know, the power outage potential has increased a little bit around Stark. Granted, there may not be a whole bunch of rain. There's not going to be as much rain for Stark as Debbie, but the power outage potential looks higher here. So keep that in mind as we're tracking this very fast-moving hurricane, this Category 3 major storm. So again, you know, have a whole slew of things happening here. Back to the satellite we go. It looks so organized. Again, trying to watch all these movements here, all these wobbles and the like. So, you know, dangerous situation with this, you know, hurricane moving so fast. And let's go back on over to velocity with the tornado warning here. Franklin County, you can see that rotation north of Creels. You know, go ahead and get in that tornado safe spot there if you're still there. I mean, most folks have evacuated here at this point in time, you would think. I mean, time is running almost out. You know, as we're looking at this brighten a little just now, which is some good news. You know, hopefully we can get off and then gather, you know, everything together for our full extended coverage here. That'll be starting in just a little while, you know, after we, you know, regroup just a little bit more, you know, after this tornado warning situation. But let's go ahead and see what storm surge can do here in terms of how heights kind of work here in this situation. So we're expecting some areas to have 20 feet of storm surge, folks, and this is how you understand storm surge flooding. You can see that house there when you get, you know, up there. I mean, 12 feet, You're up, to that first story, and then 20 feet would be pretty much to the top of a two-story home, and that's what we could see, with the high tide coinciding in the worst case scenario around areas like Steinhatchee and Horseshoe Beach here, which would be about, double, give or take, of Vidalia. Cedar Key could go up to about 15 feet, which would be about double of Vidalia. So it was bad enough during Vidalia. This could be somehow a lot worse, and that's why you got to evacuate. It's a life-threatening situation for the areas. I know I've been beating that drum for a while, and I got to just keep beating it here because of the nature of things that were done, with this. I see they're updating some of these hurricane alerts, and I'll be curious to see if there's been any changes here. Let's see, it looks like they've expanded some of the tropical storm alerts here further west, meaning they're canceling some of the hurricanes further east. So I'm just going through this here on the fly. Let's see here. Just continuing to monitor this dangerous situation in the weather center. Looks like they're just going to stay with a tropical storm warning for Union and a tropical storm warning for Bradford at first glance here. So, that doesn't mean that a hurricane gust can't be ruled out, though, and that's a distinct possibility at this point, as we're looking at things here, as we're tracking the situation. It's so dangerous, obviously. You just got to be taking heed as we're looking at this. Just trying to click on some of these here. I wanted to see what numbers they were coming up with in their latest statement. I see a new tornado warning downstate, Charlotte, DeSoto, Lee, and Sarasota, but I just wanted to see what they had in their new statement here for Bradford to see what winds they're going with their gust. Okay, they're saying gust to 60, but again, I would not want a gust to 75 around Stark. I mean, that's a little higher than what they had in there before at points, but again, so we just got to be careful. I mean, 60 is still damaging, knockout power and the like. You're probably not going to get them measured now, so I know it's tricky, but, it's about heights here too, or, some of the sites that really measure things, where you get a higher reading, those are a lot of times in, areas like at an airport. So maybe, in a bigger airport like Jacksonville even. So you maybe won't get, at some of these smaller sites here, I'm talking about weather stem stations here especially, you're not going to get the numbers that are actually, occurring if you have an anemometer higher up, and those are, your more of your official type of winds. So the others kind of, stay into consideration here as well, in this type of situation. So, again, we got a new tornado warning now. Okay, let's go back over to our other source. We have a new tornado warning now until about 5:45. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Is it going to be that area further south? Okay, they're saying 13 miles north of East Point. So now maybe they're just, how do they draw this? Franklin, Gulf, and Liberty. Okay, must just be this area here. And okay, that's, at least that's kind of headed out of our area still. So hopefully it doesn't last until 5:45 with that. But it's not out of the question that it could. Again, we'll just continue to track all this. I know it's important to kind of, beat the, drum about how bad the hurricane itself, the core is going to be, though. And that core of that hurricane is visible on radar down here, and it's moving very rapidly. I need to just take these arrows off because they're going to confuse folks. But, this is going to be something, Tallahassee, even if they, get maybe not right in the eye, that western eye wall here for Tallahassee, it could be the worst weather they've had in living memory here around Tallahassee, even if they're in the western eye wall, worst weather in living memory, maybe around Tallahassee, if they're in that western eye wall here. So, not a good situation at all, folks, for Tallahassee. And I'm just looking at the exact track. Yeah, they definitely, have adjusted it. I know it's tricky because there's certain models that have been pulling the axis into the east, and then, you think, well, if it pulls it a little to the east, or a lot to the east, it's tricky how the adjustments impact the forecast. On a hyperlocal level, it's a lot. On a national level, it's not much, really, but this is now maybe, the expectation here Let's see, I think they have this making landfall into toward Jefferson County. That's what it kind of looks like here at first glance on this map. So, that's a little to the east, but that puts Tallahassee and the Iowa like in Hermine, but this will be worse. The Iowa will be quite a bit stronger. The wind will be quite a bit worse. That's now the forecast. Maybe you don't get the center of the storm, the eye itself, and the calm weather, but you get, even maybe more rain and wind here. That's almost as serious as that northern part and the eastern part of the Iowa. If you're right on the edge, now if it somehow gets even further east, then, that can reduce the impacts a pretty good bit in Tallahassee, but that's not the forecast right now. Thomasville, you're in a pretty similar spot to Tallahassee, maybe even a little bit more precarious one, where you could have just extreme winds coming on into Thomasville and Thomas County here tonight. So hunker down there if you hadn't already, if you're in a mobile home. Even there, you need to probably evacuate. I know different counties have different orders here, and it's something, we have so many counties, I can't just keep up with all the different orders, but it's something that this is a very, very nasty situation, very serious one, as we continue to watch things here in the Weather Center. Just trying to keep you guys safe and informed. I'm looking at all sorts of different maps here behind the scenes, so, got a lot going on here. Got a lot going on in this scenario. Again, just trying to keep you safe and informed. If you see that rotation there with this individual storm, take shelter from that. But again, the bigger storm, threats from the actual core of the hurricane itself. So again, we really need you guys to be taking heed, of that here in the coming hours as things deteriorate worse in here in this, extreme situation, with this extreme threat. So again, just continuing to check some things here. I know. Let me check some of our storm surge information or details right now. I know some areas have curfews, by the way, across our area. As we continue, again, trying to give you the latest. Again, just trying to keep you safe and informed here with our hurricane. It's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family here. Again, just a one-man band, but we have a very serious situation. I just want to see what some of these numbers are showing further down to the south right now. Such a hazardous storm. It's been a long day already, and we have a, much longer night ahead of us. It's been a long week here, and it's going to be a long recovery process as well. Apalachicola, we've had about 3 feet so far. It's going down for the moment, but, the bigger stuff's later, and, around that northern Gulf Coast. But around, let's see, and it's still supposed to go up a good bit around like Port Manatee later because of the way the angle will be with the storm. So it's tricky because the storm kind of passing by, and then you think, well, we're okay, but with the way the wind direction will be shifting, we find that water still around Tampa. So, as things are further to the north here with the core, that's, very, very fast moving hurricane. You see the winds up here aren't too terrible with the gusts 20, 25, 30, 35 miles an hour, but, those aren't even tropical storm force gusts. But so over here we've had some 50 plus. I mean, some have been close to 70. You see about 60 in Lee County, Florida. So that's important, to tell you guys about. I know, just continuing to look. We do have some downpours headed into Bradford County now where we're at. There's a little bit of weak rotation with this here. So let's go ahead and kind of jump on over here. I know we've had, that clearing for a while, but that's, stopping here. Let me go ahead and jump over to our camera source because we're not going to be able to really see much at night unless we just power classes everywhere, and then we'll be on our backup system and not able to really use that camera here. But okay, you can see the trees blowing around a little bit. Again, a nasty situation, but nothing like what's going to happen later, and especially the west. I know, just interesting to get this visual outside. I mean, if we had the hurricane coming right at us, I could always just knew 100% we lose power. I can always hook this up, if we thought we'd be power pluses everywhere, but I don't think it's going to be like that here in Bradford County. Other areas, it could be something, crazy where the power pluses are just lighting up the sky. I know back in the tornadoes in the 1990s, there around Kissimmee in the late 90s, we had, there were just descriptions of stuff like that. And, it could be similar in spots out toward Tallahassee tonight, and Perry, and Valdosta, and Thomasville, in that vicinity, we have this, it's going to be, lighting up the sky across city, Madison, Monticello, power plants lighting up the sky probably tonight, and that's not a fun thing. Your trees falling, and you just don't want them to fall on your house because that can be deadly. That can be deadly for you and or your family. So serious stuff, folks. As serious and sobering as they get from only 5 miles an hour away now from a Cat 4 hurricane. Winds are 125. Let me pull up our Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. So winds are 125, 130 is the catastrophic wind damage. And we're not that far off of that. Just awful. I mean, just not what you ever want to see. But again, that's the storyline here. Again, winds maybe getting to 130. Stronger it gets before it goes into Georgia, and Florida first, of course. And the worst it's going to be for areas downstream. The stronger it'll stay. Just checking. I want to see how far north that hurricane warning goes. Now, they did not expand it east, but I mean, it goes all the way up there in toward around Upson County, Georgia. I mean, that's around Forsyth, Georgia, under hurricane warning. Yikes. Okay, let's go back to the radar with the tornado warning till 5:45. Hopefully it'll get dropped early because it will be moving out of our area here very soon. Or, when I say it dropped, it may still go, but it'll be in Gulf County, and we would wrap this up and get, ready for more continuing coverage. Is this the one-man band here? By the way, new flash flood warning. Okay, let's go ahead and kind of zoom out here. And I know, by the way, Weather Service Tallahassee, they have like backup procedures in, line in case they go offline there. They're on the FSU campus, the Love Building, but they have backup procedures in case they need to, do stuff here later on. And it's just too bad, and they're not able to operate, from Tallahassee. But flash flood warning, Coffee, Dale, Geneva, Houston, and Alabama, Bay, Calhoun, Franklin, Gadsden, Gulf, Holmes, Jackson, Leon, Liberty, McCullough, Walton, Washington, and Florida, and Decatur, and Seminole, and Georgia. So watching that flood threat there, obviously, it's going to pick up with the storm itself and the like as we continue to track it here. Continue to track the situation. So I want to try to get some stuff together here. I know we're going to have extreme wind warnings later. Let me go ahead and tell you guys about your tornado safety tips, because these are the ones, like if you're in a spot here, when you have these winds coming through, you need to seek shelter inside a sturdy building, get as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and protect yourself from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet, football helmet, baseball helmet, something like that here as you're tracking the situation. That's for tornado-like winds, even within a hurricane, when you have an extreme wind warning issued. Very rare product. I'm expecting a lot of areas in our viewing area to be under that here because of the fast movement of this hurricane. Again, a dangerous scenario, obviously. Very serious threat. Again, it's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family here. Let me go ahead and try to get our 5 o'clock map in our systems just so I can kind of display it for everybody. I'm going to do a lot on the fly here lately because it's a hurricane and, you know, the hazard it poses here for us, and, you know, a part of our area is just so severe. Just so severe. I mean, you know, 105 miles an hour on the winds. 11 a.m. now 5 p.m. we're up 20 miles an hour at almost a Cat 4. And it's very bad as the impacts increase exponentially. Very bad news. Maybe not to the level of Michael. We're not seeing, you know, that type of satellite imagery here. We had like an eye wall just as organized as you could ever see. Or even, I mean, it may not be far off the winds from Ian, but even Ian, it was a little bit more well defined on some of the satellite products there. You know, just slightly, you know, stronger winds. I mean, those times were not as big as this one, but what I mean by that is like the visible, and let me say that because it's going to be kind of, you know, not helpful for us as we get closer to sunset, but you don't quite see a stadium effect here, but that doesn't mean this is not a big deal. I mean, you almost see one trying, but on the infrared here, you know, that really shows the accent. You see all the lightning there on the eye wall. That's where the worst of the hurricane is, still offshore. As we continue to watch here, I know I have satellite in certain meso modes there and the like. It helps, you know, get a better look at it sometimes, the storm setup. Okay, that tornado warning's out. We're chasing Summits out of Franklin. It may get in a little of Liberty, though. It just depends on how this tracks exactly. But then it'll be in Gulf. We'll have other threats later on. You know, some of the stuff down to the south could start to really, you know, be a problem for us in terms of that rotation. Depending on how it interacts with the environment here, the warmer air. As you see a hurricane at eye wall, you know, Tampa. I mean, we're seeing winds over, you know, well over, in some cases, 100 miles an hour on radar and velocities. Not good. Not good at all here, folks. I mean, Tampa is still getting, you know, nasty weather, but they're dodging their worst case scenario by a wide margin. Not so much for the Big Bend region, you know, such an awful threat. And even in the South Georgia. Again, trying to get some stuff ready for you guys, the viewers at home, as we continue to follow that tornado warning. Let me pull up, where do we want to go with this? Let me go ahead and let me pull back here another view. I might go ahead and kind of, I want to at least have the radar up when we're looking at a tornado warning, if we're kind of just leaving that up for a bit. Again, tracking Category 3 hurricane, Helene, major hurricane. You're going to have devastating and catastrophic consequences here across parts of the area. A historic threat, an extreme situation here. Very, very sobering. Again, here on the air right now. I mean, this is, you know, a storm that folks are never going to forget as we look ahead here in the timeline. I know it gusted about 66 there in St. Petersburg. I know we're just so concerned. I'm so concerned about trees, that can, fall into homes and, cause injury or worse here. We saw it in Debbie and we're going to see it here. That's just how it is in a tropical system, a landfalling tropical system, and in this case, a landfalling major hurricane. Let me go ahead and go back on over to graphics. Okay, we got this updated now. Okay, category 3 Helene. Had to kind of get that in there with the cone, and then you see the, the cone you can't really see at this point, but the alerts you can see very well. You can see the hurricane warning in red, tropical storm warning in blue. Sustained winds expected 74 plus in the red, 39 to 73 sustained in the dark blue. The hurricane icon there, that is expected to be, in stage there in South Florida. That's supposed to be 2 a.m. And at that point, a hurricane could still have winds of 105 miles an hour that far into Georgia. I mean, that tornado that hit Adele, winds to 140. This 105 sustained, so, gust a little higher than that. Maybe not much higher at that point, but maybe a little. And, so, I mean, you're talking about over a wide area winds, almost as bad as what happened in the, that tornado in 2017 that, killed those people at, mobile home park there in Adele. It's happening during the nighttime hours, so not good. It's going to move through quick. I mean, not quite as quick as a tornado, but, more reminiscent of that or a squall line than a normal hurricane. And, as it moves so quick, that's why it's able to bring the wind so far in. I mean, once you get this wind, I mean, of course, getting it a little longer can make things a little worse, but, it's not going to change things that much. Once you get these numbers, you're just going to have problems, major, 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 major problems here in that red zone, the anticipation. Some of those, areas in the red zone will get quite a bit worse than others. Obviously at the coast, east side, from the north and east side, there from the center of the storm surge. And, that'll be terrible. And then, as you're looking, from near and a little west, but more east of the Iowa wall, that's where you're going to have the wind damage is so substantial. I know, new tornado warning in the Port Charlotte area. You can see where the hurricane winds sustained are in that red circle. Well, we're getting a hurricane gust around Tampa St. Pete, give or take, maybe a little under, but close. Knocking out some power. As we continue to look at things, Florida now, Florida power outage numbers have exploded in the Sunshine State here. 227,056 customers now in the dark. Talking about, small amount in Hernando, about 3,000, 18,000 in Pasco, almost 31,000 out in Hillsborough, 27,000 out in Pinellas. I mean, there's a lot of folks in these counties, so relatively small percentages, but still, 26,000 out in Manatee County, 36,000 out in Sarasota, 16,000 out in Charlotte County, 600 in DeSoto, Hendry about 1,800 there, Collier about 17,000, 13,000 out in Miami-Dade. I think they were the only county that had maybe spent on having school today in the state, but these are small percentages, but still they're enough, where it's going to make the crews have to be stretched a little thinner. Between that and the Georgia impact, it's going to make it harder for the power to come on as quick in some of the hardest hit areas. And maybe even, damage was bad in the day, it's even worse, and over a bigger area. That's problematic. Very problematic. You have power poles down all over the place, power lines down even in more areas. By the way, 641 customers died in McCullough, but it's going to change here, I mean, in a huge way. I mean, there's going to be folks here, that are not going to have power on maybe for 2 weeks. I mean, it's going to be out for 2 weeks here in some of these areas under this hurricane warning. I mean, that's, I'm talking about folks, that can receive power. There's going to be some homes that won't be able to receive power until repaired or done, or if the home's wiped away, obviously, then, that doesn't necessarily count directly in that regard. But again, it's a very big deal here. Very serious situation. Here's the one picking up a little here east of Stark right now. Let me go ahead and jump on over to our camera view again, I think. Let me jump over. Yeah, you can see things blowing around. those trees. Looking at my anemometer, gusts about 18 miles an hour here at 6 feet, which again, if you extrapolate that out, it'd be higher. But that's at 6 feet there, 18 miles an hour out of a general easterly, a little bit southern direction now. As we continue to watch, the camera gets bright sometimes, but it still kind of tells you the story. I know the adjustments sometimes on the, coloration aren't great, but at least it kind of gives you an idea. I know I'm switching between a bunch of stuff here, so if you see it if I, kind of flip things around here for a second, I'm just trying to get the latest on stuff. Well, I don't like that one coming into southern St. John's. I may get a tornado warning. Probably will get a tornado warning pretty soon. That's tightening up. We've been switching radars, so I gotta run our volume scans in here. But yeah, that's tightening up there. And you see around Lake Butler, a little bit of rotation southeast of Lake Butler. That's kind of, let's check the times on that. Well, it's running a little different, but okay, tornado warning for this one. Thought it was coming till 5:45, so a short fused one right now for St. Johns County. Need to get folks in shelter here with a possible tornado now near Hastings, moving north at 45 miles an hour. We also have Spuds and Elkton under this, so take those tornado precautions. Getting that interior room away from windows here with Helene, with this tornado warning, a very dangerous situation in terms of, these areas aren't going to get Helene, the direct core, near as bad. So a tornado like this could do a pretty good amount of damage here, and it'd be notable, more notable. People aren't evacuating really in this area, obviously. So, something like this would be a little more notable. Let's check for debris. Nothing well defined, but it's kind of further from the radar as we continue to watch. Again, trying to give you the latest. Again, you can see here some of that green and red coming together. That tornado warning. I'm going to try to go ahead and get a storm surge graphic updated for everybody. Bear with me. It might just be, let's see if they kind of lowered some of those to the south now. Let me double check. Maybe if I used the graphic from earlier, I just want to make sure it's up to date. Again, monitoring the situation so carefully. Looks like the same numbers. We'll go ahead and pull it up. Again, catastrophic threat here. I keep reiterating it over and over again. Care about it. Swanee River, 15 to 20 feet of storm surge above ground level anticipated. Care about Apalachicola, 10 to 15 feet. We have Swanee River down, through Levy County and the Citrus, 10 to 15. That's a big deal, obviously. That can be, devastating, catastrophic. It's not good stuff that we're talking about here whatsoever with this scenario. Again, trying to continue to give you the very latest. Just trying to make sure everything is the same as earlier. As we continue to track this situation. Again, such a huge threat, but let's get back to this tornado warning. You see that storm, that hook on there? Rotation not as tight right now in storm relative, so that's good. We have to still be careful though. Some wind enhancement further off, but not seeing much rotation in that at the moment in Union. We still have the tornado warning out here as well. Now rotation moving in the Gulf though, so that's good. I mean, it's getting out of our area. This one just tightened up just a little on that scan, it looked like. As it moves up toward Armstrong, so if you're in Armstrong, take your tornado precautions. As again, we continue to watch a hurricane further out here in the Gulf. You can see that lightning in that eye wall. It's moving very quickly. And again, you have the tornado warning. You know, kind of in the northeastern quadrant, right where you would expect the tornado threat to, you know, be higher there. That's what we're dealing with right now. Again, I thank you so much for tuning in and trusting me here with this coverage. Again, got a lot going on here. Again, we have the tornado warning in effect there in St. Johns County. Take those tornado precautions. There's possible tornado about to move up towards State Road 206. So, gotta be careful. Don't see anything in terms of debris, but we're, you know, looking a few thousand feet up, maybe 4,000 feet actually. So, if we had a weaker tornado, it might not be visible here on debris tracker. So, again, tornado warning. Let's remind you guys of the tornado safety tips again. Let me go to that graphic on our other source here, full. Again, when a tornado warning this year, that means a tornado's been detected using radar or spotted. You want to seek shelter inside that sturdy building. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible. And protect yourself from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet, football helmet, baseball helmet, something like that. So that's what you want to do right now here towards St. Johns County, in toward the First Coast region in Northeast Florida. As I go ahead and go back, I'll go ahead and zoom out a little. Getting word of Augusta 51, Flagler County Emergency Management. The station there, 5:30. So that's pretty substantial as we look at things. Again, looking at more information behind the scenes. Well, that's really tightening up now as it moves toward Armstrong. That's one of the tighter ones we've seen all day. We had that instability, we had that shear, so this could, you know, it's not perfectly formed, but we could get a strong tornado out of something like this if we're not careful. You know, we had a strong tornado in Irma in St. Johns County, and it's not maybe quite at that level yet, but we got to be really careful. You know, I was hoping maybe they would drop that tornado warning at 5:45, but they probably will keep this one going here, you know, with an extension further up here, just east, generally the St. Johns River. Again, a nasty situation here. Again, take those tornado precautions in St. Johns County, a possible tornado in toward that area right now. By the way, around Stark, where I'm at, eastern Bradford County, barometric pressure 999 millibars now. That's pretty low here to be as far away from this storm as we are, and this goes to show how significant it is. And got, update on the tornado warning, possible tornado in the vicinity of Hastings, moving north at 45 miles an hour. Again, continuing to monitor it. Take shelter in the area around Armstrong and St. Johns County. If this warning gets extended, it goes here further on up. Obviously up toward areas there near State Road 16. You see the polygon being trimmed a little as the situation does advance. Again, a dangerous scenario, but a lot worse of a scenario coming later on out toward the west. By the way, gust to 43 around Crescent Beach at 5:27. A gust measured to 43 miles an hour. That's according to a Mesonet station there. We'll watch to see what the next scan is with this one, because that'll be, that'll be what tells us probably if they have to extend this for sure, or if there's a chance they may be able to drop this. But it trended in a direction where they probably have to extend this warning. The environment's really primed, for this. I know we said the tornado warning out toward Franklin County and the like, but we have this tornado warning as well. This tornado warning as well in play. Around Armstrong. I know. So take those tornado precautions. Let me go ahead and switch to another mode here. Rotation tracker. It doesn't show it, strong right now, but it's definitely some rotation here over the last little bit. We were kind of talking about it. Rotation out here to the west as well. Now moving out of the area into our Gulf and a little weaker. This is just northeast of Hastings there. I'm going to zoom out real quick and just kind of see how things expand out there and toward the Gulf. And then you have our hurricane, the eye of the hurricane. All that lightning in that northern Iowa, that's going to be scary if that's still like that when it gets closer to shore. I mean, just by the way, if you're in Tallahassee and you're wondering what might happen, you remember if you were there in Helene in 2016, it was really bad when they had a Category 1 come through. Damage everywhere. It's expected to be a 3 or a 4 when it comes through, and you'll be in a similar spot, probably that western Iowa, it looks like at this point, with the center maybe going just east. But I know if somehow the western Iowa goes just east of Tallahassee, then that'll, be a lot better news for them. But areas further east get it worse, so it's a give and take here for sure. Let's see what the tornado warning's doing. Oh, that's tightening up even more. This is serious looking. This is probably the strongest one we've seen all day. North of Armstrong. Take your tornado precautions southwest of Vermont Heights. We have a possible tornado. A discrete storm all by itself. A new tornado warning now to 6. They're going short fused, which I like because these can sometimes, get stronger, get weaker. But this one right now is more about getting stronger than anything. At 5:43, it's a very thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. Is located near Federal Point, or 7 miles north of Hastings, moving north at 50 miles an hour. So you need to take those tornado precautions. A tornado warning for central St. Johns County until 6 o'clock. So please take those tornado precautions in that area right now. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation, gotta be really, really careful here. This is west of I-95. As we continue to watch. Again, continuing to watch the scenario. Again, that's a very tight rotation. Didn't see a debris signature with it. I know one of the strongest tornadoes we've ever had toward like Jacksonville came in 2004 with Tropical Storm Bonnie a day before Hurricane Charlie. I had major damage in Duval County, northwest side of town, because of a tornado that was very significant, and that, I believe, I want to say northeast quadrant. I'm not, I'm trying to remember back a while, but we were definitely on the eastern side of things, and that was a big deal. 20 years and about 1 month ago. So we gotta always be careful of these tropical tornadoes, is what I'm trying to say, as we continue to track this. Zooming on out. Again, zooming up to the north. A little bit of wind enhancement now in Baker County, about 50 miles an hour on the winds. Right there around US 90. And then, of course, the big story is what is impending down here, and that's the hurricane. Now, not saying it can't, but generally it's not going to go at this point. I mean, the anticipation would not be that it would really wobble west here. So what I mean by that is that, pretty much it's not gonna be going in this overall pattern west of where it is. So that means the furthest west the eye could go is on the western side is right through here. So in theory, that would probably be, better news. I mean, you still gotta evacuate and if you haven't already, or Apalachicola, be safe, but that should put you guys in a little bit less of a storm surge spot here unless things really wobble back here with this hurricane. So something to keep in mind as we're looking at it. Look at all those terrible winds in here, though. I mean, these winds over 100 miles an hour in some cases. Very serious hazard. And then on the northeast side, northeast quadrant, like it is in the meteorology textbooks, we have this. A tornado warning. Right there. Okay, but there's a rotation starting to come on, so we may start getting some tornado warnings with those, but this is pretty well defined. Again, St. Johns County. Tornado warning west of Interstate 95. Right now it's clear around Stark in terms of the rain. That could change as we look ahead. Whether we get in reports. So even now I talk about the worst of the hurricane missing on maybe in western Franklin. I mean around, areas, further over where there's, the chance they could get the full blow of it still around Carabel. Report there of some flooded highways on Highway 67 north of Carabel. As we continue to track this. And then we go back to the east now with the tornado warning. It's very tight. Sometimes you get pretty tight looks on radar with this velocity, and then they don't actually verify much down in this spot of the radar, though. Something I've seen over the years, so you just never know. But didn't see debris, which is good, but it's rotating about 60 miles an hour when you add it together. Always important to take those tornado precautions. Again, interior room away from windows. So important to keep those in mind here in this type of scenario. Again, trying to keep you safe and informed here. I know this rotation probably, maybe Molasses Junction, something like that. That community there in St. Johns County. It's just a one-man band here, so that's why I'm not talking sometimes, because got a long night ahead of us here, and we have to be on them whenever we have a tornado warning storm in our area, like this one. Just reminding you guys, there were 62 counties. Again, we have this tornado warning in effect. In a very favorable environment. I'll see what I mean. Look at these significant tornado parameters down to 2. Energy values, 1,000 joules per kilogram or more. That's very ideal for a tornadic, area of concern. So, I mean, one thing, even though this is bad enough, and it's possible tornado to pick a lot of moving north at 50 or 10 miles west of St. Augustine. I mean, at least, the landfall, I mean, it's not good that it's going to happen tonight to the west, but in terms of the tornado threat, at least the instability will drop a little before we have even more friction involved here. So it could be really dangerous, but it changes things just a little bit there. We don't have the landfall and the clearing, during the day, both here. We have, everything come together. But it's still bad enough. New update here on the tornado warning. It continues here till 6 o'clock at 5:50. Again, we've been talking about this here. Also near Wargoff Village and in Bakersville, as we look ahead over the next 10 minutes or so with this polygon. Again, you see that spin, wind's going toward the radar, or wind's going away from the radar. Again, some pretty high gusts around Tampa. We have the tornado warnings down there. We have tornado warnings even in North Carolina, South Carolina right now too, but from Tampa, St. Petersburg, that's at 68 miles an hour in Pinellas County now. That's going to knock out some power. And, that's something that's really can be problematic, so keep that in mind. But again, the worst of the hurricanes out here, and that's coming ashore later on this evening, moving very quickly up there to the north-northeast. So again, there's a tornado warning. You see the greens, you see the reds. We're watching this here. Watching it very carefully. And as this continues, depending on the type of signature we see here, what I may do, I mean, we're going to keep the coverage going, but I might take a couple minute break to catch my breath, because we just have to get some things, kind of, updated here, and, get ready here for the landfall itself a little bit more. You see, that's a pretty highly popular area. It could be headed toward now. Of course, we've been talking about Wargoff Village, so gotta be taking those tornado precautions. May head more into here, but it depends on the exact movement. A lot of homes out there, it would seem. Again, a nasty situation. Might can be a lot worse with the hurricane itself. I know in these tornado warning situations, we really have to repeat ourselves a lot, but it's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family. Let's remind folks again, though, that storm surge threat to the west, that's just going to pick up so rapidly. So here's a graphic on that. The coastal devastation from Helene could look like this in the hardest hit areas. Please evacuate. Please, please, please evacuate. If you haven't already done so around, that Big Bend region and toward, Levy County in our area, because time is, almost out now. It's almost out. You need to leave, you need to leave now. Oh, right now. I mean, at the very latest, you might still have a chance to get out right before sunset, but the only reason I'm saying that is that, literally at that point, the water is going to come in probably right after that, really high, and it's going to be dark, and that makes things even more dangerous. So, you know, you need to leave right now, though. If you're going to leave and haven't done so already, you don't want to wait around any longer, because the roads, I mean, they could be, really sudden down, getting clogged, people trying to get out at the last second. So please, please get out now. Coastal Franklin, and then especially as we get further to Wakulla and Jefferson and Taylor there and Dixie and Levy, get out. I know. As we get down the coast there, we're talking about areas there. I mean, like Citrus, Hernando, Pasco counties outside of our area with, concern to pick up as well. Could be very severe for those areas too, the storm surge. But okay, new tornado warning again. Let's go ahead and kind of jump back on over here to another mode. Okay, so your new tornado warning now at 6:15, as this kind of parallels but doesn't quite maybe cross I-95. You still see that rotation there, the greens and reds coming together. I mean, it may be slightly weaker than the last scan, unless there's debris with it though. Nothing definitive yet, but new tornado warning. Let's go ahead and kind of read the polygon here. At 5:55, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Piccolata, or 11 miles southeast of Green Cove Springs, moving north at 35 miles an hour. We're talking about areas like Horde Golf Village around 6 and Fruit Cove around 6:10 here. Potentially being impacted. Bakersville also under the warning. So, again, that's kind of the storyline there. As we continue along, continue to give you the latest information. Again, as concerning as these can be, the concern's even, way, way bigger toward the west of the landfalling hurricane, a landfalling major hurricane later on tonight. A very serious, very sobering scenario as we look ahead in toward the timeline. It's about as bad as it gets, later on tonight, what we're expecting in the meteorology world. There's velocity again. Winds going toward the radar, winds going away. We have that spin there. St. Johns County, east of the St. Johns River, west of I-95 though. Waiting for the 6 o'clock hourly update on Helene. Haven't quite got it yet, but 5 more miles an hour would make it a Cat 4 hurricane. That might be what we end up having as we look ahead. As the situation, worsens, the storm, the pressure lowers and it deepens. A little bit weaker in the rotation on that scan. That's some good news as we look at that. So that's what we like to see. That's what we like to see here. That's a little bit more of a positive trend. We hope it continues in that direction as we look ahead. But let's go to our infrared satellite of this pattern. It just gets worse and worse. Look at that. That's the worst it's looked all. And when I say the worst, I mean the most organized, the most terrifying. It's looked all day here, the hurricane. You see, we have all these warnings that we've been on all day for, but the worst of it is out here. I have it on the meso view, and let me just put it back on the other satellite so it's not kind of cutting the boundaries. But the point is, you can see, I mean, we have so much more of this to get through. We haven't really been on for a long time. We haven't really got through much of this at all. This is the storm, that's going to maybe be Tallahassee and or Perry's, Valdosta, Thomasville's storm of the century here pretty much at this point. That's, what we're talking about. That's how big of a deal this is. It's a monster hurricane, a catastrophic threat. I mean, and it's very fast, barreling toward the coast. It's not like some of them were to drag, and really go very slow there in the Gulf of Mexico. It's going, very, very quickly toward the coastline here. And that's very serious stuff. I mean, this is a hurricane. It's going to have, catastrophic consequences. A hurricane of epic proportions, really. I mean, you're a Cat 3 and you think, well, at least it's not a Category 5, but, you know, the storm, honestly, has a lot of similarities at this point. I mean, as it probably becomes a Category 4 before landfall, it kind of reminds me a lot of Irma in a lot of ways. Not exactly for certain areas, but just in terms of the size and the strength here. And that was a storm that folks will never forget. Obviously, we're tired. You know, as we're looking here, this is headed right up toward the Big Bend now, and it's going to have a catastrophic impact. Absolutely catastrophic. I know the high tide at 7 or so around Cedar Key. As you look here, right now the wind's going away from there as we're looking at things, but again, just continuing to watch. Actually, I'm just double checking something here. I know it kind of varies sometimes, but I know the, you know, where we're looking along the coast, but the sensor from NOAA actually has high tide, you know, at a lot worse of a time here for Cedar Key. They have it at 11:35 tonight, so that's, you know, that's a lot more concerning because that would line up almost perfectly now with the way this would make landfall. So that'd be awful, you know, if that lines up like that. Would seem that it could. Interesting. I'm surprised by this. So they've actually lowered the wind speed a little on the hurricane from 125 sustained to 120 sustained now. Okay, that's some good news. Barely. I mean, that's not going to make much of a difference here. But again, continuing to look, I know a slightly elevated weather flow station at the Skyway Fishing Pier near the entrance to Tampa Bay recently measured a sustained wind of 50 and a gust to 70 or so, 69 to be precise. I was rounding up, but 120 mile an hour max sustained winds and movement north-northeast at 21 miles an hour and a minimum central pressure at 950 millibars. So, again, continuing to watch here, continuing to track. I'm just going to check something here because I've seen some discrepancies on the high tide for Cedar Key, and it's so important because they were at low tide during Adalia, and that really, even though as horrible as it was, it helped them out. I want to kind of double check here some sources on this. Because that can kind of vary. Okay, the tornado warning has been canceled for St. John's, so that's good news. That means we may be able to wrap this update up here pretty soon. I want to try to get that nailed down before we do. I want to make sure we're giving you the right information on this because, you know, so many different things we have to check here when we're on the air like this. I mean, you know, this is a crazy situation. I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right information because that's so important here. So I'm just going to make sure, you know, that we can kind of verify that. But that's what NOAA has at 11:35 tonight. Let me just check some more sources here. Bear with me. So we got to get that nailed down. So important. Again, the tornado warning canceled, but those tornado warnings are not our biggest concern. Yeah, it does look like Cedar Key high tide would be closer to 11:35, so that is not good. Let me see what our wind direction mode is telling us for then. I want to go ahead and let's put a triple R on. Well, okay, so that is the current. Put model overlay on. That is not what I want to see there, because that is right there. You know, that's right around 11 o'clock right there. That storm making landfall. Maybe a little later now tonight, but then the point being is you have the wind pushing right into Cedar Key right at high tide. And that means that would maximize the potential, and we could very well get storm surge closer to 15 feet down there. So, you know, I wish we had a whole team of meteorologists working on this. I kind of have to do it on the fly here, but, you know, 10 feet, you know, would probably be if we weren't at high tide, but if we get it hidden right at high tide like this, you know, would really sow here, then that, you know, that the water's coming right into Cedar Key, and then we have a big problem on our hands here. So again, we already have a really big problem on our hands, don't get me wrong, but that's just going to make things even worse towards Cedar Key. I mean, it's not what you want to see. Okay, they're saying they had to send out a correction now. Okay, so, goodness, it's just how it is. Sometimes, you know, I had to get that high tide corrected for you guys, but then Hurricane Center did a correction. They're saying they made a mistake, and that the winds are still 125 miles an hour, not 120 miles an hour with the hurricane. So it has not weakened in terms of the winds. I was wondering about that, but I thought maybe they found some data to try to maybe back that up a bit, you know, if they saw something that didn't quite reach. But no, they're not backing down in the winds. And present moving north-northeast at 23 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure 950 millibars. So again, everybody's trying to work through this here with a hurricane of this magnitude coming on in, and the high tide, you know, time is not a good one. This is what, you know, the wind directions will look like at 11 on the model, and that's coming with the surge right into Cedar Key. The storm up to the north a little, but then, you know, everything coincides in the worst way potentially for Cedar Key. But we're already worried about up the coast too, but it may not be that big of a difference from up the coast to down the coast here. In terms of, it just depends on when the high tides are at east of those sites there. As we get further up the coast a little bit here, it makes things, you know, it makes things tricky here. I mean, as we're looking at the overall situation. But again, continuing to give you the latest. Okay, so again, that tornado warning got canceled. I'm gonna make sure we don't have anything else, and then we'll wrap it up. We don't have any in our area right now. I just want to make sure we don't have any rotation close here on us. I know we got to get to about 43 in Duval County, in toward Jacksonville. Northeast of Green Cove Springs, a little weak rotation. We'll watch it. St. Augustine area, weak rotation. We'll watch that too. But we're going to try to go off for a little bit so we can gather, you know, everything together to go into that, you know, more continuous mode. So for now, meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. Hurricane Helene looms. As you see a tornado warning down toward, you know, west central southwest Florida. But there's Helene. It's getting closer, and we're going to be back here with more through the evening to keep you, your friends, your family